And he had such a huge advantage, I thought, and then he just went mass infester. Maybe he was just trying out infester this game, kind of trying to practice new things, but that's really, really weird. Have you ever seen that from a Zerg player?
Not any kind of the esports play we've had. In all honesty, it's such a rare tactic to see large amounts of infested Terrans. You don't see it.
Yeah,
it's not ever used.
Sorry, there was a big zealot push on the far, like the south expansion for Zerg. They did manage to take out a lot of workers there, probably about 10 before they would manage to burrow.
JiYan doing something in kind with the far left expansion. Ouch.
Yeah. And it looks like JiYan is going to be pushing out with most of his forces. There are a few ultras here, but this isn't going to be enough to fight off these forces. There are a lot of stalkers, archons, and immortals there.
An infester goes and sacrifices itself. He's not maintaining control. That's one thing I like to point out about Kangwook. He is not maintaining control of all his specific units. He could be doing so much, specifically with those infested Terrans, if he just maintained a little more control.
Yeah, if you look at his army count, he's about maxed out here, but you can't really tell from looking at his two little squads here. He has 12 or 14, no, I can't count. 8, what's 8 plus 4? 12 infestors in the south there, and then just like a small task force of a few ultras and zerglings here. I think he kind of needs to combine his armies if JiYan does choose to push right now, since JiYan is flirting with that creep right next to him.
Absolutely. He's just sitting there waiting for an attack to happen.
And a little Zergling run-by is heading out towards JiYan's main. I don't think this is going to do too much. I think JiYan can just happily warp in some units.
Is this a sign that Kangwook is actually favoring some, not necessarily cheap, but financially cheap harassment tactics?
Yeah, it's definitely always a good thing to do those little harasses as Zerg, because it's so cheap to afford Zerglings. Just send them flying in. If anything, you'll get a bunch of scouting information in there if you do go into the main.
JiYan is annoyed. JiYan is very much annoyed by this attack. He's moving in on that gold expansion.
Yeah.
Oh no.
The Zerg player,
these spine crawlers aren't going to be up soon enough.
Yeah, the Zerg player really has nothing to combat that. But if you look in the south, the Zerg player is summoning a bunch of infested Terran at JiYan's south base. He really needs to block in those probes from running away, though, but those probes actually do manage to get out of there.
Very good use of those infested Terrans. Scared him off completely from that expansion and didn't cost him a single mineral.
Yeah, and these ultras actually were able to come in here and clean up the Protoss force on the gold. I was actually kind of surprised by that. I must have missed something pretty fancy over here to miss that whole death of Protoss.
Looks like a couple of those spine crawlers got activated and actually finished construction.
Oh,
wow. One with a couple more ultralisk sweeping in.
All these infested Terran in the south at JiYan's base. Just so many infested Terran here. Actually going to be able to wipe out most of these probes mining.
Oh, those storms. They hurt so much.
Yeah, that looked really painful there. Those infested Terran are pretty low on energy at this point. Probably not going to see any more infested Terran. I think 6 ultralists, if we take a look at production, 6 ultralists are coming out from the Zerg player, but I think he's finally trying to step away from this infested Terran thing, seeing that it's not working out that well.
Absolutely. It was a nice, cheap trick to try, but it never panned out. I don't think those infestors really have earned the minerals and gas that they cost to build.
Yeah, I completely agree there. They didn't do too much there. They did manage to get an expansion, and JiYan is going to be pushing to that gold. I think he should actually expand there. Has he had an expansion there yet? Have I totally missed that?
He has not tried to expand there yet. His most recent expansion and the most southern expansion point is his most recent. He's trying to get that expansion point up to the left of it, but it's just not happening because all those infestors.
Yeah.
Oh, and more infested Terrans coming out now.
A bunch of infested.
He wants to make them worth it.
Coupling it with the Zergling attack here, and the Zergling attack might be able to take out a few cannons here, but Zerglings are so weak against cannons. But they actually might be able to take out this Nexus here.
That Nexus is going to go down.
Oh, these infested Terran might be able to do that, and these infested Terran actually do manage to take out this Nexus. Nice. So they do get their money's worth, at least a fraction of their money's worth there, able to take out that Nexus. Oh, but there is an observer. An observer does see the infested Terran, and he will probably lose all of his infested Terran. It's so disgusting when they, like, pop out of the ground to just blow up. There was a bunch of blood flying everywhere. Ooh.
All those infesteds just disappearing in a matter of moments. They took out the Nexus. They severely hampered JiYan's mineral gathering. Let's take a look at actual resources here at the moment. We're seeing 976 or so right now for JiYan.
Hey, she just warped in a bunch of units and that disappeared.
Gathering-wise, though, he only has one expansion working, and that's nearly out. It's nearly out.
Yeah, one thing I like about this gold, I think it's a better 4th expansion, because once you grab that gold and you can grab that 4th here, there's only like one pathway that you can't really see units coming from, and it's this one. I'm highlighting it right there. It's to the left of the gold, so I really would have liked to see him grab this gold for a 4th rather than a 5th.
Speaking of that gold, we have an attack force coming straight for it.
Uh-oh, and there's a lot of ultralists. They do get a really bad flank here. I think they need to back out of this, as this is a really narrow choke. He might be able to win this fight, but I think he'll lose way too many units in the process.
The ultralists are going down quickly, but that advanced armor, that upgraded armor, heavily upgraded armor of 6 to be specific, really helped them out.
They got about 5-2-2 here, 5 armor, 2 attack, and 2 on their ram there.
Very effective use of units. JiYan is in trouble now because he has so little coming in resource-wise.
Yeah, and if you take a look at JiYan's army tab, he has about 56, and the Zerg player is at 152 here, so this might actually turn out bad for JiYan.
Switching tactics up here, Kangwook is going for that new expansion that JiYan has set up.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I think he's actually going to be able to finally take this out. I think JiYan really needs to run with these probes here. I don't know if they would get away, but it's at least worth trying. No, these probes are going to get killed here.
JiYan is trying to move in, but that's a lost expansion. He calls the GG.
Yeah, JiYan calls the GG. And I'm zoomed in on one of these probes here, and it's like kind of imploding here. It kind of looks neat. It's like in the process of being dead, but it's not quite dead yet. It looks...
the Monty Python sketch. I'm not quite dead yet.
But almost. I'm almost there.
JiYan, unfortunately, I gotta say, he got suffocated. He was just choked off from resources. And it was a waiting game at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that beginning, the way they both opened, I mean, the Zerg player was able to just take a huge advantage of those gateways, knocking out both of those gateways, and then JiYan tried to counter with those Phoenixes, but then at one point, Zerg just got way too ahead. I think there was one time when Zerg player had like 130 to JiYan's 70 food, and it was just, from there, it was kind of, I felt like Zerg kind of just played it out and turned it into a huge macro game, and just out-macroed JiYan and just outproduced him mineral-wise.
I certainly think if Kangwook had better unit composition and actually really focused on his offensive capabilities, he could have finished this off a lot sooner, especially with some of the harassment going on. But he still wins. That's the point. He did win. So he certainly was successful in the macro side of things, at least.
Yeah, and we did see that Nidus Worm from him. He tried it about once, from what I remember, and we never actually saw Nidus Worm again. I think it would have been really effective to actually just throw that in the main sometime through this when JiYan was really pretty far away.
And JiYan wasn't necessarily paying attention the entire time. As you pointed out, probably about a third of the way through, after an attack, it was very easy to see that JiYan was not paying attention to his upgrades, his unit production, or his economy while that attack was going on. He was focusing completely on his units and on his micro, leaving his macro to wilt and die.
Yeah, you know, I think his macro was actually somewhat solid this game. He did stay, he does have 3-2 for upgrades, but I think you're right. If he would have macroed harder a little bit sooner, I think he could have pulled through. I think Zerg's maneuverability and just ability to be in a lot of places at once kind of ate him. I think that choice of expansions really would have gone better for him if he had grabbed the gold, just because it's so easy to defend this. You can have some units here and then a unit spotting like on the Zelnaga, rather than having to just kind of be really far away from the middle, and then when Zerg moves down, you can't really see where it's coming from.
One last question on my end of things before we close out tonight. What about JiYan's unit composition? He really stuck with the solid composition of a couple Phoenixes here and there, but Stalkers, Zealots, Sentries, and a few Immortals. He really didn't go in any kind of tier 3 units. What do you think about that?
He got those High Templars, which are a tier 3 unit and really strong. I think he actually could have used some Colossus, maybe. And God forbid, we could have seen a Mothership. That would have been epic. I mean, what would Zerg have done about that? If JiYan had gotten a Mothership, I like how I can just say that since I'm a commentator. Well, if he had this unit, I think he would be in a way better position. But I think a Mothership would have been really cool to see. Theory
crafting to this extreme, but it's true that Kangwook didn't really have any detectors whatsoever that entire match at all.
I'm sure he would have gotten them, but I think that would have been cool. Maybe to go a little bit of air, maybe to get Colossus or something. Go a little bit further. I mean, High Templars, if you go High Templar mid-game, I think it's really strong to transition to that Colossus late game. I don't think you can stay with the same composition all game and really have it be successful if you're going to move from that mid to late game. And I think that's really a transition that most players are never going to get perfect. I mean, it always changes from game to game. So really, I don't know. I think maybe late game we could have changed it up a little bit.
All right. Well, thank you, JiYan, for throwing this matchup at us. Fantastic commentary, at least on our part of things for it. Thanks again. JiYan is, of course, part of the Gosu Gamers Network, gosugaming.com. Thanks again to those folks. XL, good to see you again. We'll do it again on Thursday.
Yeah, sounds good. See you guys
right.
later.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.